Note, Brian Glenn filed this victim's report naming him as the victim although he mentioned or showed no injuries. You will see Glenn out himself for lying on a report in the same paragraph he lies in. Victim report. Glenn, Brian C/victim/gender, male brian.ginn@alaska.gov. Subject. Report time, January 14, 2021 22:24. Author, BCGO Glenn. Offender/offense. Victim services notified, victim services accepted. Note, what services did he get? A reward for beating me? Victim services notified by. Victim notified. Sexual assault kit. General report. BCGO Glenn. Narrative. On January 8, 2021 at approximately 0011 hours Christopher Fenn, equals Lidsal.na dispatch. T-perting suspicious people with flashlights at the end of NA driveway at 53805 Sterling Highway in Castleoff. Al approximately 0023 hours arrived al the residence and as I was pulling in the driveway, I saw at green 1995 Ford SUV bearing AK plate EY1654 with a single passenger seated in the front passenger seat. Made a U-turn in the driveway and parked behind the VSA. Note, he went to talk to Fenn first. It is on recording. I contacted the sole occupant who was seated in the front passenger seat, later identified by AKDL as Robert Bedell, AK 8758455. Note, they had to go back 4.5 years NFOR N8 driver's license. It has been replaced with my identification card which I had but he only wanted a driver's license. Had they used the updated info they would have proven I was telling the truth when I said I gave up my driver's license. The identification card was 4.5 years old so it was in the system. Immediately noticed he had bloodshot and watery eyes. And an odor of alcoholic beverage coming from his breath and person. He was wearing a hoodie, coveralls, and a jacket. Note, pay attention to this next sentence. Throughout my contact he was not cooperative with my requests and was yawling at times. Note, remember he said throughout the contact. In just a moment you will see in his own writing that I did cooperate. I saw a clear bottle containing a brown liquid, consistent in appearance with whiskey, sticking out of his right jacket. Poxed which he tried to hide with his hand. I asked him for his license and name, and he refused to provide it or identify himself. Note, in the first edited audio you will hear him say he th9 inks I was lying when I said I told you my name. That means he is lying when he said I failed to identify. He began to yell obscenities at different times. Saying things such as, fuck you, calling me a piece of shit, a bitch and a pig. Note, the previous sentence proves they are using my freedom of speech against me as a crime instead of a right. I informed Bedell I suspected Ha may have been driving under the influence. Bedell said he had been riding with his friends Eric identified as in Haddock and Katie, later identified as Catherine Cooker. He said they had run out of gas and friends were walking to get gas, did not see anyone on the side of the road on my way to the residence. Note, then why did the other pigs find them on the road by the radio station? He said he didn't know their last names. He offered to call them on his phone and let me talk to them. Note, what do you know? He says I cooperated as well as offered to provide proof with the phone call. He didn't say he had to beat the phone and number and password out of me now did he? He attempted to call Eric and it went to voicemail. He called Katie and handed me the phone. An unidentified Mai Tints word the phone and I walked away from the vehicle to keep the conversation private. Note, I heard every word of both parties. The male said they were walking past a Wi-Fi lower on their way to work and said he was the driver of the vehicle. Note, looks like he lied when he said he didn't see anybody, or is he blind? Also proves I was not driving and it should have ended here. I asked him what the name of the person in the truck was and he said, Bob Bodian. Dispatch was unable to find anyone in Alaska by that name. Note, what do you know, I am not the only 09 Annie who doesn't remember names. And I have dementia. I radioed for an additional unit too. Printed, February 1, 2021 09:1 by Kaz1. Page 6 starts here. Check for and contact the two individuals. Note, in his call to them he tells the other pig that Eric and KD have a bottle which he just got done saying I had. I went back to speak with Bladel and give him back his phone. And he wouldn't roll the window down or open the door. Bladel began to yell obscenities again. Note, how did he return the phone if I didn't roll down the window? I was standing just behind the passenger B-pillar and started to give Bladel a disorderly conduct warning. Due to the yelling and proximity of the residents. Towards the end of my disorderly conduct warning, Bladel threw the passenger door of the vehicle open, exited the vehicle, turned towards me and said, "Let me tell you something, motherfucker." Note, First Amendment as evidence against me. I backed away approximately 10 to 15 feet from the vehicle. Bladel balled his fists, leaned forward at the waist and charged me. Note, 15 feet is about 3 steps. At this point thought he was going to fight me. I drew and discharged my taser which was ineffective due to his heavy clothing. Bladel continued to charge me. Note, he tased me twice and I was still advancing on him. And I discharged my taser 8th time which was also ineffective. Repeatedly yelled at Bladel telling him to get on the ground. He continued to charge me. Note, all this in the time it took to travel 3 steps. I dropped my taser and transitioned to OC spray and sprayed Bladel with a short burst to the face. Note, still in the time it takes to move 3 steps. He sure is fast. In response to me telling him to get on the ground, Bladel said "fuck you bitch" multiple times. Note, First Amendment used against me. I think that statement is more than appropriate for a dirty pig that lies on his reports to send an innocent man to die in prison. Bodial turned around, retreated to the passenger door, and began reaching into the front passenger side of the vehicle for a few seconds. Note, this is why there is no video. I didn't know there was a knife there and didn't reach for anything. A large approximately +12 in knife was tater located between the front passenger seat and center console. Note, how would I know it was here if it was between the seat and console? I backed off, drew my firearm at a low guard with my finger high on the slide. Note, still in the time it takes to travel 3 steps. I yelled at Bladel telling him to get on the ground, increasing both my volume and projection. Note, I was arrested for yelling. Bladel toured back around and began walking towards Ma with closed fists. Note, where is the knife if I knew where it was? While walking towards me he said, "Shoot me motherfucker, I got fucking cancer. Motherfucker, best thing you can fucking do is kill me." Note, still in the time it takes to travel 3 steps. Recognizing that there was no longer a deadly threat, I hoisted my firearm. Bladel tried to grab me. I grabbed his arms and attempted to pull him to the ground. Note, he couldn't take down a 72-year-old with dementia and can barely walk. Then Bladel tried to pull away and I struck him in the face with a closed fist. He lowered himself into a squat perpendicular to me, pressing his head into my chest with his right arm, wrapped around my back, trying to push me. Note, if I was even in contact with him you would have heard me rubbing against him on the audio recording. If I was trying to push him, why was my arm around him instead of pushing? Closed fist on the top of the head. Note, then why were the bruises in the face? While he was struggling with me 91D, I was able to get him to the ground on his stomach. He rolled on his back. Note, The withheld video shows that he had his knee on my neck, pushing my face into the snow to smother me. You can hear it in one of the edited recordings. I grabbed his left arm and yelled at him to get on his stomach. Note, again I was arrested for yelling. I was able to get him on the ground on his stomach. I put him in a thigh lock and handcuffed him. Note, when he hit me I was unconscious. I attempted to put him in the recovery position. He continued to kicking at me with his body to pull away. Note, I was unconscious. Called for Central Emergency Services to assess Bodal and wash his eyes out. Richard Fenn, AK 81477754, came from the residence to help. CES responded and provided on-scene care to Bodal. Note, since when do the cops let 0 people standing around become involved in an arrest? Sergeant Miller arrived on scene and helped me search Bodal. Note, this is when they found the ID card showing I did not have a driver's license. And put him in the back of my car. Bodal resisted efforts to get him in the car. He would not stand or walk and stiffened his body, refusing to sit up in the VSA. Note, I was unable to because of my injuries. A large knife was located in plain sight lodged between the front passenger seat and center console. The knife was seized and logged into evidence at the Soldotna Trooper post. The suspected whiskey was identified as Fireball Cinnamon Whiskey and logged into evidence at the Soldotna Trooper post. The vehicle was full parked in the driveway and was later moved by Eric and Catherine. Bodal was arrested for assault in the 4th degree and disorderly conduct and remanded at Wildwood. Pre-trial. My notes are attached. My photos and audio have been logged into evidence. Note, he said photos in the multiple and audio I8 and the singular. That means there was only one recording, not 3 as they released. Also, files listed in the reports have different file names than the ones listed. That is because the editing software uses a different file name than the original, which is withheld. My photos have been uploaded to the Soldotna AST photo server. My assigned VSA, AST09S, was at for WatchGuard repairs, and vehicle I was driving, B78 AST, was not equipped with a WatchGuard system. Note, the WatchGuard system records the audio and video. If there is audio, there is video. Plementary Report. Author: January 8, 2021 00. Remarks. Narrative. Printed, 02701/2021 851 by Kiz1.